You know, have you ever been in one of those meetings where the absolute loudest person is just completely dominating the room, only for the quietest person sitting over in the corner to suddenly drop a single sentence that completely changes the game?
It happens all the time. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're acting as psychological detectives. We're going to investigate a really fascinating human mystery. Why is true, profound intelligence so often underestimated, overlooked, or honestly, completely unnoticed at first glance?
It's a total paradox, isn't it? Why is the smartest person in the room usually the quietest one?
Well, it's mostly because we live in a world that constantly confuses a loud, extroverted presentation with actual intellectual capability. Society really conditions us to think that the person speaking the fastest, the one with the most assertive hand gestures, holds all the knowledge. But as we're going to uncover today, that is very often a complete psychological illusion.
So let's dive into Section 1, the illusion of competence.
To really understand quiet intelligence, we have to first understand the science behind why we misjudge it in the first place. It comes down to the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is a cognitive bias where people scoring in the bottom percentiles drastically overestimate their abilities. Basically, they literally don't know enough to realize what they don't know.
Exactly. And because of this, incompetent people are often overly confident and loud. They initially dominate the room. Meanwhile, your true high performers actually underestimate their skills because they just assume complex tasks are as easy for everyone else as they are for them.
Right, and this creates a massive divide between appearing smart and actually being smart. Research on social perceptions shows we rely heavily on verbal cues, like rapid speech, to judge intelligence. It's almost entirely image-focused. But actually being smart is very different. It's observant, it's substance-focused, and yes, it's quiet. Sadly, if you look at studies on undergraduates, they show an alarming disregard for real competence. People frequently choose leaders based on that loud confidence, rather than actually looking at a track record of success.
Leadership expert Dr. Tim Elmore puts it perfectly when he says, confidence cannot replace competence.
It's so true. Faking it and being loud works momentarily to grab attention, sure, but true competence is a biological and psychological reality that eventually demands respect. Image is an illusion that shatters, but substance is what we really come to appreciate over time.
Which brings us right into Section 2, the power of observation.
So if the highly intelligent person isn't talking, what exactly are they doing? Well, they're actively engaging in listening as leadership. While everyone else is literally just waiting for their turn to talk, the quiet intellect goes through this rigorous internal process. They listen deeply without interrupting, they process the underlying behavioral patterns of the group, and they formulate a highly strategic response. They aren't slow at all. They're running an incredibly complex internal data gathering machine. A really great archetype for this is Agatha Christie's famous detective, Hercule Poirot. He intentionally allows his quirks and eccentricities to take the spotlight so that others constantly underestimate him. It's such a brilliant, calculated tactic. By blending right into the background, he gets people to let their guard down. He gets to hear the unvarnished truth and collect these incredibly valuable psychological insights without ever raising his voice or showing his hand. Being that silent observer is a really complex experience. Highly intelligent people are this unique mix. They're highly rational, yet they possess a deep emotional intelligence and intensity.
Right, they have an insatiable curiosity and an absolute disdain for rules without reason. But that emotional intelligence is key. They are deeply empathetic, yet they apply calm logic to actually solve real problems rather than just offering empty sentiment. And because they absolutely refuse to dilute their authentic selves just to fit in, they very often feel like misunderstood outsiders at first.
Let's move on to Section 3, pattern recognition and processing. So, going back to our detective, Poirot famously refers to his little gray cells. This represents a profound shift from relying on loud action or physical force to relying on intense, internal mental work. Quiet observers naturally excel at connecting seemingly random events. Because they've actually been listening, they easily decode hidden behavioral patterns and spot the contradictions in people's stories that everyone else just completely misses, simply because they were too busy talking. They are the ultimate truth seekers. They enjoy teasing out the fundamental principles that underlie phenomena. And this is exactly where their legendary calm behavior under pressure comes from, because their minds are naturally synthesizing such a massive knowledge base, they don't get rattled. When a crisis hits and all the fast talkers start to panic, the quiet observer is calmly teasing out those fundamental principles to find a pragmatic solution that actually works.
Okay, Section 4, actions over empty words.
This brings us to the critical turning point, the moment the quiet observer finally takes action. Now, in evolutionary psychology, this is known as costly signaling theory. It basically states that true, beneficial qualities are proven through signals that are inherently costly or difficult to produce. To put it simply, words are incredibly cheap. Anyone can boldly claim that they're smart, but true intelligence is proven through undeniable, high-value actions that a faker simply cannot replicate.
So what do these costly, honest signals look like in the real world? Well, it's the person who consistently makes accurate decisions when the stakes are terrifyingly high.
Exactly. It's remaining completely calm during a major crisis or cutting through an hour of pointless meeting chatter to ask the single most critical question. When the quiet person finally acts, it cuts through all the noise because incompetent peers just can't fake those kinds of real-world results.
It all comes down to the simple fact that results matter. They lead well because their competence actually is greater than their authority, both in perception and reality.
Yeah, when someone's competent significantly outpaces their official title or their social volume, they inevitably become the undeniable anchor of the group. People suddenly realize the person they've been ignoring all along is actually the only one keeping the ship afloat.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the slow shift in respect.
This dynamic creates a really fascinating social life cycle. At first, the highly intelligent person is severely underestimated, often penalized socially just for lacking extroversion. They spend this initial time in the data gathering phase, observing and listening deeply. But then, the critical moment arrives. They deliver that costly signal, a brilliant solution that literally no one else saw. From that point on, the group enters a new phase of unshakable authority, where trust and respect gradually but permanently accumulate around that quiet leader.
Host B, leadership expert John Maxwell, actually calls this the law of respect. People naturally follow leaders who are stronger and more competent than they are. Post A, over time, we humans are biologically and psychologically wired to defer to those who demonstrate genuine survival and problem-solving value. The loud fakers eventually lose their audience, for sure, and the quiet problem solvers naturally rise to the top.
Substance is something we come to appreciate over time. That quote really captures the entire psychological journey we've explored today.
It really does. It's a journey that starts with an initial misjudgment fueled by the Dunning-Kruger effect, moves through a long period of quiet observation and pattern recognition, and ultimately ends in a profound appreciation for undeniable substance.
So here's a thought for you. The next time you walk into a crowded room, a boardroom, or even just a noisy family gathering, who will you be watching? Are you going to be distracted by the loudest voice in the room, or will you use your own observation skills to spot the quietly brilliant minds hiding in plain sight? Thanks for joining us for this explainer. Keep your eyes open for the quiet ones. Catch you next time.